A fire in Little Italy claims a life. A dramatic scene on College Street.
Tonight, eyewitness accounts of the rescue response and efforts to battle the blaze. Good evening. The fire broke out this morning.
Emergency crews pulled 3 people from the blaze. 1 did not survive. CTV's Mike Walker joins us live from the scene tonight on College Street near Bathurst. Mike.
Well, Michelle, Nathan, it's believed the fire broke out in a second-floor apartment above this submarine shop here. Now, investigators with police and fire have been on scene all afternoon, but say it's still too early to determine the cause. This is the moment some tenants run for safety as fire rips through an adjoining apartment building, claiming the life of one person.
Open the curtains, wall of gray. You're like, whoa, this isn't good, whatever's going on. And that's when I ran out back, smoke just pouring, black smoke just pouring out of there.
Nick Fluke shares a wall with the second-floor apartment where investigators believe the deadly fire started. He says he woke up to the smell of something burning.
It's horrible when things like this happen because it really does happen out of nowhere.
The 2-alarm fire broke out at this 3-story building on College Street near Bathurst just before 10:30 this morning.
The firefighters were met with a deep-seated fire with heavy flame and smoke coming out of the windows.
Firefighters rescued 3 people from the burning building. 1 adult was pronounced dead on scene.
There was smoke coming out of the windows. Belly buster wasn't too damaged, it was just water. And unfortunately, they carried a body outside.
Paramedics say 2 other people were sent to hospital with minor injuries. The owner of the sandwich shop below the apartments tells CTV News he smelled smoke and immediately called 911. He says there is water damage to his business. 2 cats were also rescued from one of the apartments. At this point, investigators say it's too early to determine a cause and whether the apartments had working smoke alarms.
There's significant damage to the rooms and to the unit of origin.
Crews spent most of the day monitoring for hot spots as concerned neighbors watched on.
I don't know what the cause was, but it's sad. Yeah, it's a sad situation.
The investigation into this deadly fire is just getting underway. Now, investigators haven't yet released any more details about the victim. In the meantime, the Office of the Fire Marshal has been called in to try and help determine the cause of this deadly fire. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Earlier this morning, emergency crews were on the scene of this high-rise fire in Regent Park. This was at 220 Oak Street near River and Gerrard. Toronto Fire says they were called to the 11th floor of one of the towers at around 8:30, and they were able to put the flames out. Firefighters remained on scene to help clear the smoke, and no injuries were reported.
Turning to the latest on Canada's tariff battle with the United States, the TSX, as well as markets south of the border, returned to negative territory today.
That's despite U.S. President Donald Trump's pausing his reciprocal tariffs on dozens of countries for 90 days.
Everybody wants to come and make a deal, and we're working with a lot of different countries. We think we're in very good shape. We think we're doing very well. Again, there'll be a transition cost and transition problems, but in the end, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Many countries still face Trump's 10% baseline tariff. Yesterday's pause does not include Canada. There are still 25% U.S. duties on Canadian goods, in addition to levies on steel, aluminum, and automobiles. The Prime Minister will convene a meeting of senior cabinet ministers tomorrow. Meantime, the ongoing trade war, the focus of a discussion, as Ontario Premier Doug Ford met with an American governor today. And CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with those details. Siobhan.
Well, this visit from the governor of Utah was part of a multi-day trade mission to Quebec and the province of Ontario, looking to build new relationships, new partnerships, even with tariffs still hanging over the border.
The great governor, Governor Cox.
The premier welcoming the governor of Utah for a meeting on trade. The leaders found common ground on where America's economic ire should be focused.
We agree that China is a problem.
The Republican governor says he understands the sense of betrayal Canadians feel from the U.S., with talks of annexation and financial force.
It's more than economics for me. Those friendships are deep. Those ties are deep.
He hopes this topsy-turvy period will result in trade barriers being dropped all over the world.
I believe in the importance of free trade, again, especially with our Canadian partners.
Pushing for the removal of tariffs on this country.
I have a great relationship with President Trump, and those are conversations that are ongoing.
For the premier, having an ally in a Republican governor.
It is critical. The governors have massive power down there.
Ontario is also putting pressure on the American administration to cool it with a plan to tariff some auto parts on May 3rd.
The screws that are used, there's Canadian steel, but the screw is made in the U.S. It's shipped back and bolted on. It's very, very complicated.
Urging the U.S. not to hem and haw.
It's putting a chill on business. Make a decision, and the decision, quite frankly, should be we're not building things for each other, we're building things with each other.
That spirit of cooperation reflected in a new pin on the Premier's lapel.
Just want to show him respect.
With the flags of the U.S., Canada, and Ontario on his chest, there's tentative optimism from Doug Ford.
We'll get through this and get back to normality, if there ever is normality.
In the weeks ahead, Minister Fedeli will travel to Japan and South Korea to make sure that commitments to build EV battery plants in Ontario are still solid, even though there are calls from the U.S. president for more companies to set up shop in the U.S. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. And as auto workers brace for the impact of tariffs, a number of shifts have been canceled at the General Motors plant in Oshawa. A company spokesperson said the pause is because of a parts shortage, and it has nothing to do with the evolving trade barriers looming over the sector. Unifor said it expects those shifts to resume Monday morning.
A new sign of the fractured friendship between Canada and the U.S. The city of Vaughan isn't feeling the street name America Avenue so much anymore. Still ahead, we pay a visit to the neighborhood where residents are being asked if they want to rename it.
But first, to the weather. And more flurries are flying in parts of Toronto this afternoon. It is spring. This isn't that unusual, but we are looking for signs of sunnier days and maybe a little warmth. This is a live look at City Hall this afternoon. Kind of a cool, damp day. Let's bring in Jessica Smith with a look at the current conditions. You're always glass half full. What did you like about today's weather?
I like the fact that we were still on the moderate side with temperature. So it was relatively mild. It's not great when you see snow in April, but spring snow is definitely a thing. And we saw that transition today, and it really depended on where you were, whether you saw some really light flurries or just straight up rain. But the good news is a lot of it melted on contact, but it is making for a messy drive home. So just give yourself that extra time. Temperature wise, it's still pretty mild. So again, the glass is half full, guys. We're still on the warm side of things, and it gets even better as we head into the day tomorrow, at least with the temperatures, and sunnier still into the weekend. One apiece through the islands and Pearson. Still pretty windy out there with that east-northeasterly wind. It becomes lighter overnight, but not necessarily warmer. We're looking at a low tonight of 2 degrees, which is right where we should be, so we're kind of holding on at a very steady point. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. We will look ahead to the weekend and sunnier days, but right now, it's back over to Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. We have breaking news from New York, where a helicopter has crashed into the Hudson River. 6 people have been killed. There were no survivors. A law enforcement official says the aircraft broke apart in midair and crashed. The skies were overcast at the time, but visibility was not substantially affected. The National Transportation Safety Board says it is investigating.
Back here at home, 2 workers were injured at a job site in Etobicoke. It happened at a building under construction on Dundas near Kipling. One of the workers was hoisted to the ground by a crane after being cared for by first responders before they were transported to hospital. Toronto paramedics say they expect both of the injured workers to be okay. The Ministry of Labour will be investigating what happened.
And a cyclist has been taken to hospital after being hit by a vehicle downtown. This happened at Queen and River Street. Police say the male cyclist was seriously injured after he was struck shortly after 2 o'clock this afternoon. The driver involved remained on scene. Investigators are also there tonight doing their work.
Chief Myron Demkew spoke to Toronto Police Services Board today and says efforts to address crime trends in the city are bearing fruit.
So far in 2025, many of the community safety indicators are going in the right direction. In addition to the call response times, auto thefts are down, robberies are down, shootings are down.
Chief Demkew also shared an update on the response to a now deleted episode of a Toronto Police podcast. The Project Olive Branch podcast saw uniformed members discuss Hamas's October 7th attacks on Israel and its potential impact on interest in Islam. Jewish community groups said the comments were inappropriate, especially on a police podcast. In addition to an apology, the chief said he's asked York Regional Police to conduct an independent investigation into the matter.
More frustration this evening for subway riders as Line 1 deals with service delays. Yesterday, a damaged signal cable at Union meant trains had to run slower in both directions between King and St. Andrews stations. The TTC said crews had worked overnight to implement a partial fix, but the transit agency says signal issues are now causing delays of 5 to 10 minutes from Union to Bloor, Yonge, and St. George to Union.
As we head into the weekend, the city's Island ferry service is shifting into a new gear. Trips run year-round towards Island, but tomorrow marks the start of the spring schedule. And that means departures resume to Center Island and Hanlan's Point. Officials say there were more than 1.4 million trips on the ferries last year. Schedules and tickets are available on the city website.
Police are investigating after a newborn was abandoned outside a home in London.
My roommate and I both heard some aggressive knocking on the door, so we were like, okay. Came downstairs, I opened the door, there's 2 cops, and there's a baby on the doormat.
The baby was taken to hospital by paramedics and remains in good condition. Police are seeking the public's help in identifying and finding the mother.
At this point, it's still an active and ongoing investigation. We're considering all supports and all community areas to notify. But we are very interested if anybody has any knowledge of someone that was recently pregnant or may have given birth and didn't receive the medical treatment that they should have, that they contact us or any other social agency that can provide support.
An anonymous 911 call was made just before the cruisers arrived on scene.
It's day 19 of the federal election campaign, and the race continues to tighten.
Today, the frontrunners were trying to garner votes on 2 very different topics. CTV's Kamal Karamali reports.
Hey guys. Surrounded by construction workers inside a newly built home in Milton, Ontario, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre continued to build his campaign on affordability today, this time focusing on housing.
We need to bring homes that Canadians can afford.
He says he would offer municipalities up to $50,000 in reimbursement if they cut taxes on building new homes. Those savings would then be passed down to home buyers, also scrapping the federal sales tax on new homes.
Each of those measures will save up to $50 grand on the cost of a single home. That's a total of $100,000.
Going back to school. Liberal leader Mark Carney with his campaign's focus on gun violence today. The Liberals promising to automatically revoke gun licenses for people convicted of violent offenses and restarting a buyback program for assault-style guns, while also committing to stopping guns from crossing the border.
And we will build on this foundation by recruiting 1,000 more RCMP personnel and increasing the pay for cadet recruits.
Nice to see y'all. But the NDP choosing to target Carney today. The Liberal leader has promised to balance the country's operating spending in 3 years. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh claims that would result in more than $40 billion in spending cuts.
My commitment to you as New Democrats will never support a budget that cuts the things that you need. We will never support a budget that cuts health care.
Mark Carney set to take a quick pause from the campaign trail now, returning to Ottawa to hold a meeting and discuss matters on how to respond to the latest twist in U.S. tariffs. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Toronto.
The latest national polling shows the Conservatives continue to close the gap with the Liberals. 5 points now separate the frontrunners. A 3-day rolling sample by Nanos Research ending April 9th has the Liberals at 43%. The Conservatives at 38%, and the NDP polling in 3rd place, sitting at about 9%. And when it comes to the choice for preferred prime minister, Mark Carney still has a lead, but he's lost 3 points, with over 46% choosing him over Pierre Poilievre. The Conservative leader has risen a few points and now sits at 34.5%. Jagmeet Singh is now at 4.5%.
Returning to our coverage of the tariff war with the United States, and Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister stressing again today the need to look elsewhere for trading partners.
There are 2 things. While we're working to protect our workers, our jobs, we're also reaching out to the world and leading the response to this trade war. And meanwhile, we have to think differently because the relationship we have with the US will never be the same. So what we want is, we want to make sure as a trading nation that we can be closer to other countries, including European nations, the UK, Australia, and many other Asian partners.
Mélanie Joly says Canada is facing an existential threat right now and insists the countermeasures that are in place are intended to protect Canadian workers and Canadian interests. She vows the country will never back down.
Canada's Prime Minister will convene a meeting of senior ministers tomorrow to discuss the current tariffs. Today, Mark Carney spoke to the European Commission president hours after the EU said it will put its retaliatory tariffs on hold after U.S. reciprocal duties against the bloc were paused yesterday. Ursula von der Leyen says the EU wants to give negotiations a chance, so it's suspending its countermeasures for 90 days. But European officials warn that if the talks are not satisfactory, the retaliatory duties will kick in. They say work on further measures will continue in the meantime.
China is taking a different approach as it faces a massive 145% U.S. tariff. Yesterday, Donald Trump declared Chinese imports to the U.S. would be immediately taxed at 125%. But the White House says the president did not take into account a 20% tariff on Beijing that was already in effect, tied to its role in fentanyl production. It said today it will not back down in the escalating trade battle between the world's two largest economies and reached out to other countries in apparent hopes of forming a united front against the U.S.
At the Vatican, Pope Francis made an unannounced visit to St. Peter's Basilica today. This is video taken by a visitor who said the appearance was brief, but the pontiff stopped to talk to a family with a baby. He was dressed in black pants rather than his usual traditional white papal attire. The Pope has only made one previous public appearance since being released from hospital March 23rd. He's taking 2 months to rest following treatment for double pneumonia. Yesterday, the pontiff met privately with the king and queen at the Vatican, during which there was an exchange of gifts. The royal couple ended their state visit to Italy today.
What's in a name? Well, it turns out when you're in the middle of a trade war, a whole lot.
That's why a small street in the city of Vaughan has become the focus of debate and a significant change, all in the name of national pride. CTV's Scott Lightfoot explains.
This quiet residential street in Vaughan has become an unexpected flashpoint in the cross-border tariff war.
The bond between Canada and America is not that much strong now.
Nearly 100 kilometers from the nearest U.S. border crossing sits America Ave, at least for now.
I don't look at this as penalizing America. I look at this as actually standing up for Canadian sovereignty, and I don't think we should confuse the two.
In February, Vaughan's mayor moved a motion to survey residents on the idea of renaming America Ave.
I think what we're dealing right now with the United States is unprecedented, certainly in my lifetime.
His idea to honor Canadian icon Terry Fox by renaming the street. Now the city is surveying those who live along the avenue to see how they'd feel about a new name.
We live on American Avenue, and we'll have to change a lot of our addresses in a lot of documents.
Reaction from residents seems mixed.
If Trump is doing these things with Canada, then Canada should have changed the name of this avenue.
Name changing is a good idea. It should not be America in these circumstances.
Changing a name is not going to solve anything.
It's not just the street. A massive construction project is underway to build a new bridge over the 400, linking America Ave to, you guessed it, Canada Drive. But instead of it being a bridge between two countries, or at least two streets named after countries, the mayor has asked the Minister of Transportation to consider renaming the bridge as well. Vaughan's mayor says if the province okays it, the bridge will carry Fox's name, and if residents don't agree, America Ave will live on, regardless of cross-border issues.
This is about standing up for Canadian sovereignty, both symbolically and tangibly, and trying our very best to honor a true Canadian hero.
Scott Lightfoot, CTV News, Vaughan.
Coming up, new efforts to put a dent in the doctor shortage. The provincial government announces a plan to connect hundreds of thousands of Ontarians to primary care this year. We'll explain.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, Toronto is reviewing its dangerous dog bylaw at a time when there are more than 300 on a dangerous dog list. We speak with a woman who was attacked by 2 dogs last year and a lawyer with advice if you're ever bitten. That story is just ahead.
and we are inching closer and closer to the more seasonal temperatures we should be seeing for this time of year. Yesterday we got to about 6.8, almost 7. A very similar story today, and as we get into the day tomorrow, we're holding on to almost an identical forecast. The good news, though, the rain will taper off eventually as we head into Friday, and by the weekend there is some sunshine on the way. Coming up, your full forecast, and stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
During the pandemic, there was a huge increase in dog ownership, and currently the City of Toronto is reviewing its dangerous dog bylaws.
Dog attacks have been on the rise, and it's important to know dog owners can be held liable for all injuries caused by their dog. Pat Foran has our story on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Nathan and Michelle, Animal Services in Toronto had more than 2,700 calls last year to investigate potentially dangerous dog attacks. Dog bites can be severe, and if your dog bites someone, you can be charged and face a lawsuit.
But I'm just trying to be strong.
Anita Brown of North York still gets emotional speaking about a dog attack that happened just over a year ago that left her with severe, life-changing injuries.
The one in front of me, he just jumped straight into my face and he grabbed here and then he got bitten.
She was waiting at a bus stop when two dogs that were on the loose without their owner present attacked her. They broke her arm and hand and caused deep bite marks on her body and face.
And this hand was broken. So this is the surgery that I did. It have 18 staples in here. My face was 15 and under here was 12.
She now has a metal plate in her arm and limited mobility in her hand. A Toronto man was arrested and charged with 3 counts of dog biting and criminal negligence causing bodily harm. Toronto currently has 329 dogs registered on a dangerous dogs list. The city wants to strengthen a bylaw that requires warning signs outside the homes of dangerous dogs.
We've seen attacks in parks, in schoolyards, and in addition to, in general, on the street itself.
Lawyer Nainish Kotek says if you have a dog that bites another dog or person, you are responsible for the damages. You can be charged criminally and face civil lawsuits. He says anyone who owns a dog should have home or tenant insurance and make sure their company is aware of the size and breed of the dog.
Make sure your home insurance knows you have a dog, so that therefore, you'll be covered if your dog happens to bite somebody and you're sued.
Kotek says if you're attacked by a dog, you should seek medical treatment, contact authorities, document your injuries, and make sure you have the dog owner's information.
By the grace of God, I'll be okay. I'm surviving.
Brown has received no compensation for her injuries and still requires physical therapy. Kotek's law firm has agreed to review her case. And a dog that is considered dangerous must be muzzled at all times when in public and is not allowed to use any of the city's off-leash areas. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, at least the golf courses are open, the public ones run by the city. But again, another day that just doesn't look or feel like spring.
I love how on the day that they open, there are flurries flying. I mean, it's not stuff that's sticking to the ground. It's spring snow, which isn't too bad. But yeah, we could move on from this.
It just makes me emotional. I'm done with it. But I feel like spring snow just hits different because I'm at this point of the year just ready to be done with my winter gear. But the good news is it does get better as we head into the day tomorrow. Still a little bit of rain left over but the April showers and the Mayflowers really are a thing. So hopefully it can help bloom something beautiful as we head in towards the later months. But throughout the day today, we've seen a little mix of it all. And it really depends on where in the city you are and where in the GTA you are and what you're going to see. A little fog earlier today that lifted and we had a brief moment of reprieve, a little sunshine out there. And then the messy mix. We've seen a little bit of everything. But because we are on the mild side, temperature-wise, it's not necessarily sticking to the ground, but that doesn't do much to help kind of alleviate what it feels like when you look out there and you see snow. Temperature-wise, we're sitting at +1 here in the city. Wildly different story in Northern Ontario. Again, they're at 11 degrees. That's where we should be for this time of year when it comes to our high. We have a bit of a wind chill here as we head into the evening, and a really breezy easterly wind is going to carry us through until tomorrow. Temperature-wise tonight, right on par for seasonal, but again, it feels very damp and a lot of that wet snow transitioning over to rain as we head into the early part of our evening and into the day tomorrow. Not an all-day rain affair, but spotty showers here and there in a generally overcast day. Mild, but Again, we should be at 11, and we have a more northerly wind throughout the day, so that will add that kind of damp, chilly feeling to the air. The bulk of the system will push its way out, but we are still holding on to a pretty gusty wind before we get to that point. The low, again, tracks its way a little bit further south. We are going to see it kind of linger into eastern Ontario tomorrow, and behind it, we just get those few showers as we linger through our day. Now, as we head through the rest of our evening, it's not all bad. Again, temperature-wise, it's okay, and we're holding on to this wet snow, kind of light rain feeling as we get through the rest of our evening and into the day tomorrow. A fairly dry drive for the bulk of the commute. And then we're just looking at pop-up showers off and on throughout the day. So by no means is it a wash, but just a good idea to take your time if you're heading out on the roads, getting ready to kick off your weekend. A little cloudier on your Saturday, but you know what? Temperature-wise, it is going to shift, and it gets back towards a much more seasonal point. And then as we head into Sunday, even more sunshine. So there is hope on the horizon. Temperature-wise, again, we're not really where we should be heading into the day tomorrow, but that overnight low kind of holds steady on that seasonal point. And then kicking off your weekend back into the double digits. Great for getting out and finally seeing a little bit of sunshine out there. And as we head in towards next week, we hold on to the warmth for at least Monday. There's a bit of a cool down as the system rolls through. Not likely to dump anything significant. Again, a very wet snow making its way through our Tuesday. And then we start to climb again and the sunshine returns. So it's a little bit of a trade-off when it gets to this time of year, when you have those bit of a cool downs and you have that battle between the warmer air to the south and the colder air to the north. You get that messy weather in between. But there are April showers and then there are Mayflowers, and I'm excited for both. Michelle, I'll send things back over to you.
Yes, bring on the Mayflowers.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jess. Well, a reminder, if you got a view of Billy Bishop Airport or you happen to be nearby tonight, Ports Toronto is carrying out an emergency training exercise there this evening. It's expected to involve what looks like a disabled aircraft and emergency vehicles on the tarmac. The scenario will also include first responders and actors portraying people in need of medical attention. The exercise runs from 9 p.m. to midnight and is not expected to impact airport operations.
Also tonight, making plays within a play and taking a shot at greatness. Hoop dreams set to become a reality on the Toronto stage. A behind-the-scenes look at Flex coming up. We're learning more about the provincial push to find more people a family doctor.
Today, the Ford government announced new steps to address Ontario's physician shortage. We get the details from CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan.
This next round that we're announcing today will add an additional 80 teams. And those 80 teams are made up of not only physicians, but nurse practitioners, dietitians, mental health workers.
The announcement from Health Minister Sylvia Jones is in addition to 78 primary care teams announced last February.
We hope to have these teams operational by the summer. So it is a very fast application process, and I know there is a lot of interest out there.
By 2029, every person in Ontario will have a family doctor or a primary care team where they will be able to go for their first point of care.
The placement of these multidisciplinary teams will be based on postal codes with the biggest needs.
The 125 postal codes that we have identified have on average 8,000 people in that geographic area that don't have a place to go for primary care.
Jones says 2 years ago, legislation was brought in to allow out-of-province doctors to practice in any part of Canada.
And we've seen a very large uptake of interest in that. We can do very similar things with American and physicians and nurses who are practicing south of the border that want to practice in Ontario.
It's one of several moves Ontario has made in recent days to lure medical experts up from the U.S. Funding for the new primary care teams is part of the provincial government's previously announced $1.8 billion plan to improve healthcare by 2029. The Ontario Medical Association estimates 2.5 million Ontarians are without a family doctor, and that number could climb to 4.4 million without urgent action.
It's about making sure that family doctors don't leave practice because they don't feel like they have support.
The hope is to get 300,000 Ontarians off the wait list for primary care by year's end. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Public Health Ontario says there's been a sharp increase in the number of measles cases. After an infected person arrived from New Brunswick back in October, officials have now recorded 816 measles cases, mostly in southwestern Ontario. 155 cases have been added to the tally since last week's update. To date, 61 patients have ended up in hospital. 57 of them were not immunized, including 47 children. Infectious diseases experts say measles is extremely contagious, and getting vaccinated is the best way to stay protected.
2 Fisher-Price products sold in Canada are now being recalled as they may pose a potential choking hazard. Impacted items include the 3-in-1 Snug-a-Puppy Activity Center, which comes with a toy shaped like a tissue box. That tissue box is being recalled, as is the Brunch and Go stroller toy. Part of it can crack to create dangerously small parts. Customers are advised to stop using the toys and contact Fisher-Price for a replacement.
A popular provider of eye care products is recalling several types of artificial lenses. Some of the affected products are used in cataract surgery. Bausch & Lomb issued a voluntary recall last month in the U.S. after reports of inflammation that it says could not immediately be explained. The company confirming today this recall applies in Canada as well.
Singer-songwriter Lorde has surprised fans with new music.
We wake from a dream, oh baby, what was that?
The singer from New Zealand shared a few seconds of an unreleased song titled WWT, or What Was That? The sample has fueled speculation Lorde may be dropping a new album. It would be her first since Solar Power in 2021.
Grit, determination, and a future that hangs on every shot you take. That's the story behind a new play currently in rehearsal.
As CTV's Andrea Case reports, Flex is a story of sisterhood and, in her case, family.
Shots are fired and minutes die. I lost that night, but I came back as a coach and won. Because a train is only as strong as its weakest link.
It's plain old Arkansas in 1997, and a group of 17-year-old high school students dream of making it to the newly formed WNBA.
We got this, ladies. Ready? Flex!
In the play Flex, the word means more than just a basketball move. It's a celebration of the young women's fierceness, athleticism, and what it means to take your shot, literally. Throughout the play, the actors play basketball.
It felt like 1,000 basketball gods guided my wrist. My shot was a rainbow swoosh, nothing but the bottom of the net.
Actor Shauna Thompson wasn't worried about her rusty basketball skills.
I was more fascinated by the character's swagger and like their confidence and the fact that they were so determined to make something of themselves that the basketball was not necessarily an afterthought, but I was like, I can pick it up, we'll get there, yeah.
All the actors in Flex came to the show with varying degrees of athletic ability. Full disclosure, Jasmine Case is my niece. Her brother, Mateus, is a Division I basketball player. Booyah! Jasmine Case says the dialogue can change depending on if they sink a basket or not.
The ball might go in a direction that we don't expect it to, but we are just so quick on our feet that we're kind of ready for whatever happens, and audience members should be too. That's what I would say. Keep your hands up, for sure.
The show's a co-production between Crow's Theatre and Obsidian Theatre, and with Toronto announcing its WNBA team, The Tempo.
I think that women in sports is just so incredibly important, same as everybody else in sports. And I think that this show really capitalizes that, especially Black women in sports. I feel like we've been at the forefront for a lot of the WNBA for sure. And so I think that it's just as important this year.
But you don't have to be a basketball fan to appreciate Flex.
If you love sisterhood, this is a play for you. If you love sports, this is a play for you. There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of growth in the characters, and you know, and see if they win the state tournament. Who knows?
Flex! Run, ladies!
Previews of the Canadian premiere of Flex tip off on April 15th and opens on the 23rd. Andrea Case, CTV News.
After the break, it was a long shot. Ooh, we're going to keep you in suspense. The young man from Mississauga efforts an epic half-court basket, the big moment that brought Raps fans to their feet.
Now more than ever, Canadians need to know where our leaders stand. CTV News keeps you informed on the issues that hit home. This election, connect to Canada's most trusted news source, CTV News, now more than ever.
Sad. Yeah, it's a sad situation.
Updating our top stories, one person is dead, 2 others are hurt after a fire in Little Italy erupted this morning. Toronto Fire says crews responded to the 2-alarm blaze in a building on College near Bathurst. This happened around 10:30. The city says it was fully extinguished by around 5 p.m. The Office of the Ontario Fire Marshal has been called in to investigate.
Believe in the importance of free trade, again, especially with our Canadian partners.
Premier Doug Ford welcomed Utah Governor Spencer Cox to Queen's Park. The two leaders discussed the ongoing trade standoff between the United States and Canada as the Trump administration prepares to impose tariffs on some auto parts next month. Ministers said confusion over Washington's next steps is bad for business, and they prefer to cooperate instead.
I look at this as actually standing up for Canadian sovereignty.
And what's in a name? In the face of these ongoing tensions with the U.S., the city of Vaughan is considering renaming one of its streets, currently known as America Avenue. As residents weigh in on the idea, the city says it would rename the street in honor of Terry Fox, along with a cross-highway bridge that is currently under construction.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
In business, stocks slid again today, dragged down by trade war fears after shooting higher yesterday. Andrew Bella, BNN Bloomberg, has all the details.
Hello there. Forget bulls and bears. One BNN Bloomberg guest, Stan Wong of Scotia Wealth, told us today we're in a kangaroo market. Canadian and U.S. stocks dropped about 3% today as U.S. President Donald Trump raises the stakes in his trade war with China. The White House said levies on Chinese goods are actually 145%, made up of 125% announced yesterday by Trump, plus 20% previously imposed for China's alleged role in fentanyl supply. That has put Trump on a collision course with Chinese President Xi Jinping, who has already announced countermeasures, including a cut in the number of U.S. movies he's allowing into the Chinese market. Gold hit a new record high today, above $3,155 U.S. an ounce, as investors sought a safe haven. The U.S. dollar fell against international currencies, and the Canadian dollar changed hands at 71.5 U.S. cents, up almost 2/3 of a U.S. cent. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $59.63, down $2.19. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil, $51.44, up $1.64. And the TSX Composite ended at 23,014.87, down just over 712 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Some big news out of the fashion world today. The Prada Group announced a deal to buy its rival Versace in a deal valued at 1.25 billion euros, or nearly $2 billion Canadian. Prada's chief marketing officer said the takeover would offer growth potential as the two companies have few overlaps in terms of their customer bases. Prada also said Versace would maintain its creative DNA and cultural authenticity.
As air travel bookings to the U.S. plummet, new figures show Canadians are also making far fewer cross-border trips by car. Statistics Canada says there was a nearly 32% decline in return trips by automobile last month from Canada to the U.S. That's compared to March of 2024, and it marked the third monthly decline in a row. Analysts have linked the trend to ongoing trade tensions and comments by the U.S. president about Canada's sovereignty. Others cite the steep currency exchange rate.
It's a dream prize for a lifelong Raptors fan. Liam Rodriguez was awarded season tickets after pulling off an amazing feat at Scotiabank Arena last night. Rodriguez nailed a half-court shot during halftime. The 27-year-old from Mississauga says he practiced on his local outdoor court to get ready and was surprised to see the ball go in because he thought it was short. Rodriguez got the chance after participating in a layup contest last weekend. He says getting that basket last night was awesome, calling it surreal.
luckily, I wasn't too nervous because I had no expectations of myself to hit it. So I set a pretty low bar for myself, but just still being in front of the crowd and everything, it definitely brought up some nerves. Yeah, honestly, it was just a blur.
Rodriguez says he's looking forward to next season, taking a bunch of different people to the games. He won on a night the Raptors played their last home game of the regular season.
Coming off of a double-double, his first career double-double. Battle the three! Bucket and book it!
And Toronto's looking for a second straight win. They led after the first quarter and were able to hold on for the victory, 126-96 against Charlotte. The Raptors finished the season with 2 games on the road, at Dallas tomorrow and San Antonio on Sunday.
On the ice, Canada defending its title at the Women's World Hockey Championship today.
Gardner out in front, redirected off a Rantalis skate, so into the net it goes for Canada. Gardner likely credited with that goal.
Jennifer Gardner scored twice and had an assist in her debut to lead her team to a 5-0 win over Finland. The Canadians play Switzerland tomorrow.
Matthew Nyes, Riley, stopped by Vasilevsky, and another chance. Matthew Nyes scores! Matthew Nyes!
The Leafs were in Tampa last night for a crucial Atlantic Division matchup. Matthew Nyes was the hero. His third goal of the game was the overtime winner, lifting Toronto to a 4-3 win over the Lightning. The Leafs will be back on the ice Saturday to play rival Montreal.
And a Canadian is near the top of the leaderboard at the 89th edition of the Masters. Corey Connors from Listowel, Ontario, is tied for second at -4 following his first round today. Justin Rose leads the tournament at -7. There are 95 golfers playing in what is the largest field in a decade, and that includes 3 other Canadians, 2003 champion Mike Weir, Nick Taylor, and Taylor Pendrith.
Just ahead, taking a swing to tee off the spring. Toronto's public golf course is open for the season, and despite the chilly weather, players stay the course.
Tonight, more Canadians changing course to avoid U.S. destinations.
We won't be going again for, many years, if ever again.
How a heated trade war is cooling interest on both sides of the border. Later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special shout out to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Tomorrow, how GTA siblings got the scoop.
There's some landmines that need to be defused.
On starting their own business.
We thought maybe there might be a niche market for us.
To pick up some extra money. Tomorrow on CTV News at 6. Finally tonight, taking a swing into spring.
A sure sign of the season. City golf courses are now open, and as CTV's John Musselman reports, even today's cold conditions couldn't stop people from hitting the links.
It sure didn't feel like golf weather. Still, a good number of dedicated, hardy players were willing to brave the chilly fairways today at Tam O'Shanter Golf Course in Scarborough.
Gotta keep warm, gotta keep the upper body warm. You want to walk so you're not sitting in a cart feeling the wind.
It's okay. It's a little chilly, but definitely still happy to be here.
Today marks the official opening of the city's 5 area golf courses for the 2025 season.
Tam O'Shanter Golf Course, how can I help you?
Don Valley, Humber Valley, Scarlet Woods, D'Antonio Park, and Tam O'Shanter are now booking tee times.
We had 3 record-breaking seasons, and we're hoping for another one. Last year we hit about 248,000 rounds, an increase of 8,000 rounds from the year before.
City officials say city-owned courses generated nearly $9.5 million in green fees last year at Tam O'Shanter, something new this year. They've added 2 indoor golf simulators so the public can practice all year long. Club Pro Vishal Delvey says people new to the game should think about investing in lessons before spending big dollars on fancy new clubs.
Golf is a game where if you just go out and swing a swing, and if you build something that's not good, either the game-wise or your physical well-being, it's difficult to get rid of it. So the unlearning process is difficult.
For lots of golfers today, it was all about working out the kinks and adjusting to course conditions.
I topped it and then had to hit a recovery. But yeah, being out on the grass again is nice. You remember that the lies matter a lot more than it does on the sim.
It just means everything. You know, golf has obviously been my life for a long time.
Golfers are encouraged to book tee times up to 7 days in advance through the city's website or contact the clubhouse directly. John Musselman, CTV News.
All right, hopefully the weather cooperates because golf is fun.
I love that about Canadians, right? It's freezing, there's snow today, and they're still golfing. We're a hardy bunch.
You're fine. It's one of those days where maybe if you were golfing early in the day, it was still cold, but the weather wasn't as messy. We're dealing with wet snow now, and that's going to continue right through the rest of the evening. So keep that in mind. It is going to make for a messy and kind of slick drive as we head in towards the end of our day today, but it is at least mild. A very seasonal night ahead of us, albeit a cool one. A very ominous shot here. It is very much a wet snow for the GTA. As we head into the day tomorrow, it transitions into more of a rain event. Still on the positive side, only barely at 1. Feels like -3, and we're holding on to that bit of a damp feeling in the air. So again, give yourself time as you head out tonight and tomorrow morning because the rain lingers. But with a northerly wind, it will definitely feel cooler. The good news is, and I promise there's good news in this very soggy forecast, we get back to seasonal as we head in towards next week. A little cool down Tuesday, but I'm not even looking at that. I'm focusing on the sunshine. And that's what I'm going to leave you guys with for today.
That weekend looks fabulous. Thank you, Jess. And be sure to join Omar Sachinina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Sean Leathong, who has your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.